I was on a work trip with some colleagues and my boss to the central region. We were meeting some very important clients there. We were supposed to go together in the company van, but our boss decided he would drive himself. The rest of us followed in the van. When we arrived at the hotel later that day, I called my wife to let her know I had reached safely. It is something I always do. She picked up, but immediately I noticed something. There was noise in the background, not normal house noise. It sounded open, like she was somewhere outside or in a place with people around. I asked her, "Are you at home?" She paused briefly and then laughed a little. "Yes, I'm home. It is just the TV." Her voice sounded normal, but the explanation did not match what I was hearing. I didn't push it. I just said, "Okay, I just wanted to check on you. I have reached safely." She said, "All right, take care of yourself." I told her I loved her. She said it back. We ended the call. I sat on the bed for a few seconds, holding my phone, thinking about that noise. It was a small thing, something I could easily ignore, but it did not sit well with me. I eventually told myself I was overthinking. There was no reason for her to lie to me about something like that. Now, anyone who knows my boss will tell you the same thing. He is not a friendly man. He does not laugh, he does not joke, and he does not praise people easily. If anything, he is known for pointing out mistakes more than anything else. Working under him has never been easy for me. But on this trip, it was different. That night after we settled into the hotel, we all met briefly to go over the next day's plans. My boss was already there when we arrived, and from the moment I saw him, something felt off. He was smiling, not just a small polite smile. He was relaxed, talking freely, even laughing. At first, I thought maybe he was in a good mood because of the clients we were about to meet. But then I noticed something else. He kept directing that good mood at me. He praised my recent work in front of everyone. He mentioned how reliable I had been, how I was improving, how I was someone the company could depend on. At one point, he even laughed at something I said, something that was not even funny. My colleagues looked at me. I could see it in their faces. They were surprised. Later, one of them pulled me aside and said, "What is going on? Since when did he start liking you like this?" I laughed it off. "I don't know. Maybe he's just in a good mood." He shook his head. "This man does not have good mood like that." I didn't have an answer for him. The truth is, I didn't want to question it. For the past few months, I had been praying for things to change at work. I had been working harder, staying longer hours, trying to prove myself. And now it felt like everything was finally paying off. So instead of looking for reasons, I accepted it. I told myself I deserved it. That maybe my efforts were finally being recognized. That maybe this was the beginning of something bigger for me. Still, as the night went on, I found myself watching him more closely. The way he laughed, the way he spoke, the way he kept looking at me with approval. It did not feel like the man I had known for years. Later that night, after we had finished eating and everyone had gone back to their rooms, I decided to call my wife again. Whenever I travel, it is our routine. We usually talk for a while before she sleeps. It is something I have always looked forward to. She picked up after a few rings. "Hello," she said. Immediately, I noticed her voice. It was softer than usual, almost like she was tired or distracted. I said, "Are you okay? You sound tired." She replied, "I'm fine, just a long day." I asked her how work was, how everything went at home. She answered, but her responses were short, not like her usual self either. There was also something else. The background was quiet this time, no noise like earlier. It should have made me feel better, but it didn't. I said, "Are you already in bed?" She said, "Yes, I want to sleep early." That alone felt strange. Normally, when I travel, she tries to stay up a bit longer so we can talk. Even if she's tired, she would still say, let's talk more before I sleep. But this time, she didn't. I tried to keep the conversation going for a few more minutes, but it felt like I was the only one making the efforts. Then she said, can we talk tomorrow? I am really tired. I paused for a moment, then said, all right, sleep well. She said, you too. The call ended. I held my phone for a while, just staring at the screen. It was a short conversation, nothing serious on the surface, but it left me with a feeling I could not explain. I tried to tell myself it was nothing. People get tired. People have off days. There was no reason to reach too much into it. The next morning, we all gathered at the hotel lobby to prepare for the meeting with the clients. My boss is known for being very punctual. In fact, he is usually the first person to arrive anyway. So when we were all standing there and he was not yet around, it caught my attention. A few minutes later, he finally came out. He looked relaxed, and again, he was smiling. The same easy smile from the day before, like everything in his life was going perfectly. As he approached us, he greeted everyone in a way I had never seen before. He shook hands, he laughed, then he started hugging people. At first, we all laughed about it because it was so unlike him. One of my colleagues even joked, say, what is going on today? He just smiled and said, nothing, I am just in a good mood. Then he got to me. He stepped closer and hugged me the same way he hugged the others. But the moment he did, something hit me. It was a scent. At first, I couldn't place it properly. It was faint, but I knew it. My mind tried to ignore it, but my body reacted immediately. I pulled back slightly, still looking at him, trying not to show anything. He was still smiling, still relaxed, like nothing in the world was wrong. But in that moment, something inside me shifted. I tried to dismiss it, but the more I tried to ignore it, the stronger that feeling became. Because that scent, I knew it, and I knew exactly where I had smelled it before. I stood there for a moment, trying to act normal, as the others continued talking and preparing to leave. But inside me, something had already started connecting pieces I did not want to connect. I knew I needed a moment alone to think clearly. So just as we were about to get into the van, I held my stomach and bent slightly. I said, please, I am not feeling well. I think I need to use the restroom. Normally, this kind of thing will irritate my boss. He does not like delays, especially when we were heading to an important meeting. I was already expecting his reaction, but it didn't come. Instead, he looked at me calmly and reached into his pockets. He brought out his car keys and handed them to me. He said, that is fine. Take your time. You can come with the car after. I paused for a second before taking the keys. I said, say, I will be quick. He shook his head slightly. Don't worry. Just come when you are done. That response did not match the man I knew. As the others got into the van and they all left, I stood there for a few seconds in the quiet, holding his car keys. That is when the feeling became stronger. Something was wrong, very wrong. I turned slowly and started walking back into the hotel. At that point, I knew one thing clearly. I was not going to the restroom. I was not going to my room either. I turned and started walking toward my boss's room. When I got to his door, I stopped. I stood there for a few seconds, just looking at it. I almost turned back. I told myself, you are about to embarrass yourself. There is nothing there. There is no one in that room. But that feeling did not leave. So I raised my hand and knocked. Once, no response. I waited a few seconds, then knocked again. Who is that? A voice answered from inside. When I heard the voice, I almost fainted, and I knew I was not ready for what was behind that door. Welcome back to my channel, babe. How are you doing today? I hope the body is doing great. If you are new here, I'm Vera, but you can call me V. And I share real life stories that will shock you, break your heart, inspire you, and sometimes make you laugh. So if this is something you will love, please subscribe and like this video. And don't forget to turn on the notifications so that when I post, you'll be notified immediately. Today's shout out goes to Mami Chesam, Rebecca Amisa, and Princess Stima 545. They were the first people to comment on my last video. Thank you so much for the support, babes. I love you. Please go subscribe to my new YouTube channel. I want to be giving you stories left and right. The link will be up there. And thank you so much for the support and love. And now, without any further delay, let's continue the story. For you to understand how I got here and why the voice I heard shocked me so much, I need to take you back. Before all this happened, my life was simple. I am not someone who has ever had much, but I have always tried to do things the right way. I married my wife because I loved her. At the time, I believed we would build everything together, step by step. I was around 30 when we got married. She was 26. She was working as a primary school teacher, and I was still a junior associate, trying to find my place in the company. The salary was not great, but we managed. We adjusted. We planned. We told ourselves that things would improve with time. My wife is a very beautiful woman. Sometimes I even wondered why she chose me. I loved her deeply. From the beginning, she always talked about one dream. She wanted to open her own boutique. She did not enjoy teaching because it was stressful and not what she truly wanted for herself. Many nights, we would sit together and talk about it. She would say, I don't want to do this teaching job forever. I want something of my own. I would tell her, just give me some time. Once things improve at work, we will start it small and grow it. She believed me. But as time went on and nothing really changed, I started noticing something in her. Sometimes she would go quiet. She would sit there, looking like she was thinking deeply about something. One day, I asked her, what are you thinking about? She hesitated before answering. Then she said, I just thought my life would be different by now. That statement stayed with me. I moved closer to her and held her. I said, it will be. We are not there yet, but we will get there. She leaned into me and smiled. It looked like she believed me again. At that time, I thought we were still on the same path. I thought we were just going through a difficult phase that every couple goes through. A few months before the trip, there was a company event in Accra. It was one of those formal gatherings where staff are encouraged to come with their partners. I had never brought my wife to anything work-related before, so this was the first time I was introducing her to my colleagues. I remember feeling proud that day. When we arrived, I could see the way people looked at her. It was obvious she stood out. My wife is very beautiful. A few of my colleagues even pulled me aside later and said, you are a lucky man. I smiled. I already knew that. For most of the events, everything felt normal. We moved around, greeted people, had conversations. I introduced her to a few of my colleagues, and she handled herself well. Then at some point, I noticed something. She was standing with my boss. That alone was not unusual. It was a work event. People were interacting freely. But what caught my attention was his expression. He was smiling. Not the usual brief, controlled expression he gives people. A real smile. And then I saw something else. He was holding her hand. I stood there for a moment, watching them. They were talking quietly. She looked comfortable. He looked interested. After a short while, they separated, and she came back to me. I asked her, what were you and my boss talking about? She replied casually, oh, nothing. He just said I look nice and asked what I do. I nodded. I didn't question it further. At that time, I didn't see any reason to. But after that event, things began to change. She started coming home a bit later than usual. She would step outside to take some phone calls. Sometimes she would be on her phone, smiling slightly, then put it away quickly when I came close. When I asked, she always had an explanation. Work, friends, family, nothing that sounded serious on its own. Then at work, something strange began to happen. My boss, who is known to be very strict and difficult to please, suddenly started treating me differently. He began giving me more responsibilities, more projects, and even increased my salary. People in the office noticed it. There were even quiet talks that I might soon be promoted to senior associate. He called me himself and told me I was first on the list for the promotion. For the first time in years, I felt like my life was finally going in the direction I had always hoped for. But at home, my wife was not the same. Then I started noticing the emotional distance too. She was still there physically, still talking, still responding. But something felt different. It was like a part of her attention was somewhere else. One day, I came home earlier than usual. She was in the room on the phone. She didn't hear me come in. I wasn't trying to listen. But before I could make my presence known, I heard what she said. She mentioned meeting up and having some fun. I stood there quietly for a few seconds, trying to process what I had just heard. Then she turned and saw me. She immediately ended the call. I asked her directly, "Who were you talking to?" She hesitated. Then she said, "It is my ex." I asked, "Why are you talking to him like that?" She explained that he had reached out recently. She said they had been talking, but nothing had happened. She said, "I didn't do anything, I swear." I looked at her for a long time. I was hurt. But at the same time, I didn't want to believe anything worse was happening. I wanted to believe that whatever it was had already ended. So I chose to trust her. I told her, "Please don't let something like this happen again." She agreed. She said she would stop talking to him. After that conversation, things seemed to settle a bit, or at least that is what I told myself. I convinced myself that we had faced the problem and moved past it. But now, looking back at that moment, I understand something I didn't understand then. What she told me that day was not the full truth. Now back to the hotel. After I heard the voice, there was silence. For a moment, I even thought maybe I had made a mistake. Then I heard movement, soft footsteps, the sound of something shifting inside the room. My chest tightened without me realizing it. I stood there, unable to move, waiting. The door handle turned slowly. Then the door opened. I didn't speak immediately. I just looked. The moment my eyes settled on what was in front of me, everything inside me dropped. I cannot even fully explain that feeling. It was like my mind refused to accept what I was seeing, even though my eyes were clearly looking at it. For a few seconds, nothing made sense. I just stood there, confused, trying to understand. My wife was standing in front of me. She was just standing there, wrapped in a towel. Her hair looked slightly wet, like she had just come out of the bathroom. The moment our eyes met, her face changed immediately. The little composure she had disappeared. She looked scared. Then she started crying. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. I just stood there, trying to understand how she was standing in my boss's hotel room. My mind was still trying to reject it, even though it was right in front of me. She was the first to speak. She said my name softly, then shook her head, already in tears. "Please, I'm sorry." I still didn't respond. I stepped into the room slowly. That was when I saw his things. My boss's clothes, a suitcase. Everything was clear. There was no misunderstanding. I turned back to her and asked one question. "How?" She broke down completely. She knelt down, crying, holding onto my hand. I didn't want you to find out like this, she said. Please forgive me. I pulled my hand away slightly and said, tell me what is going on. She started explaining, struggling to speak through her tears. She said after that company event, my boss asked for a number. He told her not to mention it to me. At first, she didn't think much of it, but he started calling her. Then he made it clear. He told her he could change our lives. He knew my situation at work. He knew I had been stuck for a long time. He told her he had the power to help me move forward, to increase my salary, to make sure I got promoted. But there was a condition. She paused before saying it. Then she said it quietly. He wanted me. He wanted me to sleep with him. She said she struggled with the decision at first. She knew it was wrong. She knew it would hurt me. But she kept thinking about our situation, about the years we had spent struggling, about her dream of opening a boutique, about how slow everything had been. Eventually, she agreed. She said she convinced herself it was something she was doing for us. She admitted that the phone calls I heard were not from her ex. It was him. Everything she told me back then was a lie. She said they had been meeting secretly for some time. Even at the office, he would sometimes call her to come over, and she had to be careful not to let me see her. Even this trip, she said she didn't want to come. She told him it was risky, but he insisted. She said he liked the idea of doing it while I was close by, without knowing. When she finished speaking, the room went quiet again. All the things that had been happening over the past few months started making sense. The sudden favors from my boss, the salary increase, the projects, the promotion that was coming. None of it was just hard work. I stood there, looking at her, but it felt like I was seeing everything differently for the first time. After she finished explaining, I stood there for a few seconds. Then I told her, I can't deal with this right now. I asked her not to tell him that I had come there. Then I left the room. I went back inside, got into his car, and drove to meet the others. By the time I arrived, the meeting had already started. I walked in, greeted everyone, and sat down like nothing had happened. Nobody noticed anything, but my mind was not there. I kept thinking about everything she said. That night, I lay on my bed in the hotel, staring at the ceiling. I knew where she was, just a few rooms away, with him. My phone kept ringing. She called me several times. I did not answer. I was not ready to speak. We returned to Accra on Monday. I got home before her. When she arrived and saw me, she immediately started crying again. She kept saying, I'm sorry. I did it for us. I did it for our future. I watched her carefully. Then I asked her a question. Did you use protection? She nodded and said, yes, always. I asked another question. Do you want to stop? She hesitated. Then she said, I will stop if you want me to. But I did all this for the promotion. And the promotion is close. Everything will change. If I stop now, everything I have done will be for nothing. She was crying as she spoke. I don't even like him, she added. I just wanted things to get better for us. I stood there looking at her. What she did was wrong. There is no way to excuse it. But at the same time, I understood what had led her there. The pressure, the waiting, the frustration. I also knew one thing clearly. That promotion would change everything for us. I stepped forward and held her. She froze at first, like she did not expect it. Then she started crying harder. I told her, if you want to stop, stop. We will manage. Then I added, if you want to finish it, then finish it. Hey! She looked at me surprised. I said, just be sure of what you are doing. She said she wanted to finish it. She said she did not want everything she had gone through to be wasted. So that was the decision. She continued seeing him. Hey! And I pretended not to know. At work, I kept doing my best. I took every opportunity. I built relationships. I learned as much as I could. I smiled when I had to. I respected him like nothing was wrong. But inside, I knew exactly what kind of man he was. And I knew what I wanted. The promotion came. And after that, she ended everything with him. He thought it was just another arrangement that had come to an end. He did not know anything had changed. About a year later, an opportunity came up in the company. And this time, I was ready. With my new position and with everything I had learned, everything I had built, and everything I understood about how things worked, I moved up. I took his position. I still remember the look on his face the day it happened. He tried to hide it, but I saw it. Things changed after that. Our financial situation improved greatly. My wife left a teaching job and started a boutique. Today, she has 2 shops in different locations. At home, things became calmer. In some ways, we became closer. In other ways, there are things you cannot completely forget. I know many people will say I should have left. I understand that. But I made my choice based on my life, my situation, and what I believed I could live with. I love my wife, and I know she was only trying to help. We wouldn't be in our current position without a sacrifice. So call me a fool if you want. She's a good woman and I will love her forever. I chose to stay and I chose to focus on the future. And I accepted everything that came with that decision. Hey! What? What is going on? What is going on? Let me hear your thoughts down below about this story. And if you were in his position, would you stay or would you leave? Hey, this one day, I don't know what to think. Leave your thoughts down below. I really want to know what you would do. Hey, things are happening though. And now, I mean, you know that this is a judgment-free zone. We listen, we don't judge. So please be kind to him in the comment section. And babe, if you've not subscribed yet, come and join the family. Please subscribe and like this video. And don't forget to turn on the notifications so that when I post, you'll be notified immediately. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Okay, I'm done. Bye.